This is, in my opinion, the Thanos of trucks. I cannot believe how bad this is to try and get out of a parking spot. How am I even going to do this? Oh my God, I hate this. I can't even tell where the front of this is. What is this thing? Alrighty. It's enough ripping. Let's get on the road and do the intro. So 3 out of 4 people watching this channel drive a gas truck apparently. Well, this $77,000 Chevy Silverado EV, it's for you. I've been driving this for about a week now, and I have to say, it's an interesting beast. I'm Keith. I've been daily driving EVs for 3.5 years, and I'm going to tell you something most EV reviews won't tell you. The best EV truck is the one that feels the least electric. If that sounds backwards, hit subscribe, because we're about to get into why boring might be the most effective strategy for EV pickup trucks. And here's the thing I really don't want to admit. This Chevy Silverado EV is probably a better recommendation for most of you than my Rivian R1T, much as I love Rivian. But it's true, because Chevy understood something about EVs that most legacy automakers miss. This truck has a legacy to live up to. For most drivers of gas trucks, they want to go somewhere familiar. They don't want to go somewhere that's completely different. They could want to go to a place with buttons. They want to go to a place with a familiar interior and a familiar driving experience. They want to go to a place where the sat-nav works the way that they're used to. They're looking for something that they can understand, that they can use and feel confident in. They're not looking for something that throws them into the deep end and says, swim. They want to go to a place that they can feel at home immediately. And frankly, this does a stellar job of exactly that, much as I dislike driving it every day. For real. This is a great truck if you're coming from a gas truck, because it has all of the gas truck things that you could want, and it still feels like a gas truck. It just happens to have electric motors, a massive battery, and one pedal driving, which at least when going forward is properly implemented. So exterior styling is a little interesting. I mean, it's all black, all white. It's the base model here, so it doesn't have like anything super amazing or premium about it, but it's solid. It's solid and it works. It comes standard with running boards. It's got decent wheels. It has a lot going for it actually, which is interesting. It also has the port here in the right spot if you're dealing with like Tesla superchargers, which is what you can access with this. It has a good sized pickup bed as well. I mean, it's a truck. And that's not a bad thing, and actually something I kind of do like about it. Would I drive this thing? Absolutely not. I actually kind of despise it. But at the same time, most of you watching this are actually going to find this to be really, really useful. So what about the navigation? Well, there's nothing to write home about, but even here on a largely base model, it's solid. It's got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, got all of that. You can go through pretty much everything you need. It does have a Wi-Fi hotspot, but that's apparently an extra subscription, which I'm not enthusiastic about. The base maps also require a subscription. Again, something I find kind of wild, that they're going to charge you to go ahead and have maps in your car. Then again, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, most people are going to have what they need with that anyways. You got a smartphone, you're going to connect it up. So in the end, the subscription is really if you want to use the built-in maps, which aren't any better. So I don't know why they would charge you money for something that isn't any better than what you already have. Go figure. As far as like interior buttons, everything else, it is nice. I really do like having dual zone climate control as standard. There's no smart sync, and for whatever reason, I do like having buttons here for the HVAC. So when you put it on auto, both sides are still separate in terms of temperature, so you still have to adjust both of them if you want to make sure that you're not having the fan running harder on one side and less on the other. The screen itself is fairly responsive. The UX itself is nothing special. It moves, it does things, it taps, it exists. That's about all that it is, but that's also all that it really needs to do. It doesn't need to be anything special. This is not a vehicle for an early adopter that's going to go ahead and critique the brand based on the responsiveness of the touchscreen. That's not what they needed to bother with. It does have Play Store and does allow you to set up Google Assistant, and does also have the ability to install other apps on here. So there is some convenience about having them built in and not needing to use your phone. But again, I think 99% of people are just going to have their phone on wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto and not even think twice. One convenient thing that is standard, well, parking sensors are not audible as standard. It does have some measure of sensors, it does have a standard front and rear camera. So while you don't have side cameras, you do have the ability with this monstrosity to be able to look forward and see how close you are to the car in front of you or when you back up. Now, backup cameras are standard on almost everything now, but the front camera is a nice addition, again, for a base model. So let's talk about handling for a minute. For what it is, a big, heavy brick of a truck, I mean, this thing is an absolute monstrosity in the sense of weight. It's fine. It's surprisingly fine, actually, and that's a compliment. Like, this does not feel overly sprung like a lot of big trucks do. This does not feel twitchy like the Rivian sometimes does feel over weird or rough surfaces. This feels planted, solid. It's just not going anywhere. This feels like the Thanos of trucks. It's like, hey, I'm a big truck. I'm going to get through that turn. Definitely not at the speed you probably wanted, but I'm going to get you there. And that's actually a compliment, which I'm surprised by. It's not super fast. It's not super communicative through corners. It's not going to make you feel like a hero when you drive it, but it feels inevitable, like you're going to get there. This vehicle will go through whatever is in front of me, whether that is a turn, definitely not the speed that I want it to be, or whether that's another vehicle. If someone happened to be in my way, it's not going to stop. I mean, there is such a feeling of momentum with this thing that it's actually kind of shocking. This does not at all feel like my Lucid, which is so beautifully sorted and will stop on a dime. It is well modulated, and that does mean, too, that if you want to drive this down a windy road, you're going to drive it down a windy road and you will be fine. You'll be happy with it. You'll be like, okay, this is a good truck. I feel confident when I drive it. I feel secure when I drive it. I feel like whatever is happening when I drive this vehicle is fairly predictable, and while it's not the greatest vehicle in the world, when you drive this, you do feel fairly safe. You feel protected. You feel like you are in a cocoon. You feel like whatever is outside, you are shielded from. And, well, you're not isolated and detached like in other vehicles. And while the steering is a bit rubbery, and while the suspension, it's not wobbly, it's not blumpy, it doesn't also make you feel fatigued. It is actually pleasant to drive for a long distance. I think you could easily knock down 400 miles in this and not feel very fatigued, on the level of the Rivian, which is also not a fatigue-inducing vehicle, and same with the Lucid. And that's a hell of a compliment to give this. That is not an experience I have had in any gas truck, full stop. Not once. I grew up driving gas trucks too, by the way, and drove them for a very long time, all the way into the 2010s. So this is impressive for what it is. What about charging? Well, I have to say I was impressed as hell with charging this. At 25% battery when I plugged it in, it started off at 310 kilowatts, or just shy of that. And it stayed there all the way to 35%, and it slowly over time dipped down through the 250 kilowatt range down to 145 kilowatts at 71% where I unplugged it. I could not believe that. 145 kilowatts at 71%? That was really impressive. It is a fat charging curve. That is hard to do. And with such a big battery, I was impressed because it managed to stay at such a high level rate of charge all the way to the 70% range, that the charging time on this is actually relatively good. Let's talk acceleration for a minute. It's good. It has good pickup. It'll run. It's not the greatest in the world, though. It's definitely not a vehicle that you're going to go drive to have fun in. Again, that's fine. But does it have the power you need if you're towing or if you're hauling a bunch in the bed? 100%. Will it do that every time without fail? Absolutely. Will you be very happy that you have that much power in this vehicle? Yes. Yes, you will be. Because while it lacks the ridiculous 800 plus horsepower of the Rivian, it has everything it does need, even in this base LT model. You really don't need more power in this. And if you're coming from an internal combustion truck, you're gonna be just fine. You're actually gonna be quite surprised at how cleanly this pulls, how smooth it is, how it really actually is enjoyable to drive day to day in a way that most gas trucks are not. A lot of gas trucks, they give you a lot of noise, a lot of theater, but they don't really give you the actual movement that you want. This, it dispenses with the theater, and it still takes you there. I mean, this is the thing. I want to throw my keys in the river when I drive this at times. Trying to get out of that parking spot was driving me insane. How am I even going to do this? Oh my God, I hate this. Can't even tell where the front of this is. I cannot believe how bad this is to try and get out of a parking spot.
How bad this is to get out of a parking spot.
But at the same time, this is not a bad truck at all for 90% of truck drivers. I did not think I would say that when I got in this for the first time. So let's talk interior on this. I mean, it is what it is. It feels like a base model American truck. And let's be honest, even high trim level American trucks do not feel that high trim level. They just don't. There's chunky plastics, a lot of big things. I got scratchy plastic all over in here and stuff like that. You have useless details on the dash that make zero sense, like the ridges on the dash up here. What are those? It looks like the roof of my mouth. You know the little ridges on the roof of your mouth out there? I think that's where the salivary glands are. You know those little ridges? It looks like that. I'm like, no, what is this? There's a lot of things in here that make no sense. You know, Rivian did a beautiful job of clean, elegant, crisp design. But that doesn't matter. If you're coming from a gas truck, you don't care. And in fact, I think it makes it feel more familiar. It feels like an American truck in here. It feels exactly like you would expect a Chevy to be. You're gonna get in this truck and go, this is a Chevy. I know where I am. I know what the steering wheel does. I know how to shift, I know how to use the blinkers, I know how to turn on the parking brake, I know how to use the sat nav. I have buttons for things. There's enough room in the back that I put my fictional massive Labradors and my fictional massive kids that are eating me out of house and home. This is a triumph of ridiculous Americanness. And I kind of like it. Would I buy this? Absolutely not. If you have a Chevy Silverado EV, why aren't you driving one of these now? That's the problem, you see. And there's so many things about this that just drive me crazy. Like, what's this? Why is this here? This is, I mean, the screen's good. I'm gonna give them props for the screen. Okay, they did it right. The sunshades, they don't go over far enough and the sun stabs me right in there. I don't know why this mirror is like oblong. This makes no sense. You're just cutting off my vision. Put a proper mirror on here. What are you doing? There's so many things in here that make absolutely zero sense, yet it is a triumph of completely ludicrous Americanness. It is a big, ponderous, plodding vehicle, and like I said, it is the Thanos of trucks. It is inevitable, and it will get there eventually. And I kind of like it for exactly that. This is the truck I would tell my uncle to get. My Uncle Greg, who I love dearly, and is an incredible crafter. This is the truck I would tell him to get. He's currently driving a full-size Tundra. And he actually loves my wife's Rivian. He's very, very interested in it. But I think this actually would probably float his boat more. And he's a former submariner, so float his boat is actually kind of apropos. But I'm going to give Chevy props. This gauge cluster in the center is really well done. I have everything that I need to know. I have my speed. I have my trip information, both trips easy to see. I have a meter for how much power or regen I'm using. I also have my battery gauge, which is fairly easy to read. I have both percentage and range on here, no choosing between them. So fairly well done. And all the information I need is presented here quite easily. I can access it. It's done right. That's actually really nice. And I think that is something that a lot of companies could learn from. This does lack a few things that I find really critical in a vehicle right now. I love the side mirror cameras on the Rivian and the Lucid. The fact that I can look and I can immediately see exactly what's going on whenever I want to merge. That feature is so undersung and standard on a Rivian. I feel like the fact that that is a option on these that you have to go get at a higher trim level is ridiculous. It should be included at the base price of this vehicle. And that to me feels greedy. So one thing I dislike and one thing I like. One thing I dislike is that you do not have click to open and click to close on all 4 windows over here. I think that's kind of ridiculous. That's such a cheap thing to add in and they don't have it. However, one thing that they did right is the fact that I can control the mirrors and the steering wheel, which for some reason are powered in this base model, but yet I don't have power seats. Riddle me that one. But you can control them here with switches. That's such a great feature. It's so cheap to do. Why don't more companies do it? I'm looking at you, Rivian, Tesla, Lucid. And the steering wheel adjustment has a lot of range too. This is very easy to optimize for the right driving position. Again, good ergonomics in here. And I'll also say this too, but this nice chunky center console right here, my arm rests very comfortably, and the same thing with the armrests on the door. Now the door armrest is it's not that soft, so I will say this, after a while your left arm will get just a little, it's soft, but it's not soft enough, let's put it that way. Now one thing I'm going to rip Chevy for right now, and you need to remember this if you're buying one of these, is do not go without the power seats. And I'll tell you why. Because the unpowered seats on this have 0 lumbar support. And my back is caved in, and that is one thing that, while I know you could knock down hundreds of miles in this thing, if you need any lumbar support, you will hate the manual seats in this truck. Just straight up. Save yourself the pain and regret. Get the power seats with power lumbar. Full stop. That is one of the most important things to remember with this vehicle. Let's talk visibility for a few minutes though. Visibility's good. I mean, big windows. Big windows everywhere. The rear is plenty big. I have a commanding driving position. I will say though that the front hood of this is sloped down more sharply than I would personally like, and the result is that I'm not quite sure where the front of the vehicle is. So I'm a little uncomfortable about that, and I'm not exactly sure where it is or how I can kind of place it. That makes me more cautious in parking scenarios or maneuvering through tight spaces. And I don't have the same sense for where the wheels are that I do in like the Rivian. So that makes me a little more concerned, a little more scared when I drive this, because I just don't want to hit something, because it's so big that despite how well the accelerator is modulated in this, I'm still never exactly sure how it's going to respond. So that means I'm slower to maneuver, I take more time, and I'm a lot more worried that I'm going to impact something than I would normally be in another vehicle. Now, if you're in a big truck all the time, you're used to this. You're going to be more comfortable, you're going to have a better sense for it, and you're not going to struggle. And I think given a month or so, I would eventually get over that too. But for right now, for the week I've been driving this, it is definitely off-putting. So let's talk rear legroom. I have to say, the rear legroom in this is cavernous. My daughter loves sitting back there. It's almost as much rear legroom as the Lucid, which is honestly shocking. And that's because GMC did something right here. They built a complete clean sheet, because even though it does not feel like a complete reboot of a truck like the Rivian does, this feels like a Chevy, as I've said. They did do it right. And they went in, they did it new, they packaged better, and the end result is there's a lot more room back there. And that makes the back seat in this far more usable than the Rivian. And that's a thing that, well, for us as a family, is not something that would make or break the vehicle. We're very happy with the Rivian. If you've got big kids, that's one problem with the Rivian. The rear legroom in it is not that great. And you end up spending a lot of time wondering who's going to fit back there. My daughter is almost as tall as my wife now. We're getting to the point where they're getting cramped in the back of the Rivian. That was not an issue in this when we were driving around. So there are definitely a lot of advantages to this. And as far as practicality too, it has a lot of things that work. I have cup holders down below here. I've got a big glove box over here. There's even this little cubby spot right here to put stuff. I am a little annoyed there's no wireless charging down here, but I believe that is an option on higher trim level models. So overall, like, ergonomics in this are actually fairly good. So I'm here at the Bridge of the Gods trailhead, and I want to point out something that absolutely drives me insane. I'm stopped, and I'm in park. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put it in drive. I'm going to let off the pedal here. What happens? It holds, right? You move forward with the accelerator and regen, stop, and it holds. You put it in reverse and it holds, right? No, it doesn't. What the hell? That is ridiculous. And apparently this is something that BMW also does. So yeah, that to me is nuts. And that is something that I think absolutely should be changed. Because if you have an expectation of one pedal driving when you're going forward, it absolutely needs to do the same in reverse. And this thing does not stop easily in reverse. It just starts moving, and it moves faster than you expect. So while you might get used to it, the first time you sit down on this, it will make you drop the F-bomb, like my wife did. So we're on the freeway now. Let's talk freeway driving for a minute. And let's talk cruise control. How does this do? Well, this is a base one, so it doesn't have the crazy features. But yet, it does have adaptive cruise, which I'm actually kind of impressed by. It kind of surprises me that this came without power seats, yet it has adaptive cruise. Not sure what the logic is behind that one. But still, on a freeway, this does surprisingly well. I can give it just enough turn and know that I'm going to be going the direction that I expect it to be. So from a freeway driving perspective, this has a directness that makes me confident when I'm driving on the freeway that's going to go where I expect. And immediately when getting into this, I knew exactly how much lock I had to put in to go through a turn without any adjustment. And it's been that way ever since I sat in it. And so I actually do find this to be a really impressive steering rack for an American vehicle. Most American vehicles don't have the ratio locked in so well. If you're coming from a gas truck, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by just how well this stays straight on the freeway, and how when you're turning, you're not really worried about exactly how much steering input you have to give. And it's not like you are generally worried, but if you come up on a turn that you maybe didn't expect on the freeway, and you're in unfamiliar territory, for example, you're not going to be slowing down as much as you might in another vehicle. You're going to go, oh, I know exactly what I need to do to go through that turn. That's not a common thing. That's actually really impressive, and I think the engineers at Chevy deserve a lot of credit for that. Unfortunately, we didn't get time to do any trailering in this, and I am bummed about that, but next time, Gadget, next time. And so I'm guessing here, I'm pretty sure that this suspension would do actually quite well trailering, because it has just enough progression in terms of the spring rates that on a freeway like this again, and this is a heavy truck, weighs this much, this doesn't have any wallowing. So when I go over bumps, I go over seams, I go over a dip in the road, it doesn't wallow, it's not oversprung. It's just right, but I can feel the progressiveness of the spring rate as I go into something. So I feel like it goes in and then it settles very quickly. There's just enough give at the beginning of the suspension movement in this that it will soak up the bump, but then it'll quickly close and then hold. I've gone over a couple of bigger dips in this, and it settles very quickly, and then it stays. And so it didn't get upset, it stayed solid, and it felt very planted. It's again that Thanos of truck thing. It takes freeways very, very well, and there's a lot of freeways in the US that have horrible road surfaces, and yet it does just fine. So I feel like driving this on highways and freeways, even with the trailer, you would probably be more confident in this than you would be in a gas truck, because the suspension is just so well sorted, because it already has to hold so much due to the battery in this. And because it also doesn't have to deal with the same drivetrain, it also has better suspension geometry than it would otherwise. So that's been really impressive to me. Look at me. I'm sitting here and I started this off dropping a couple of choice words about this, and now I'm giving it a ton of compliments. What's the world coming to? You should be really strongly considering the Chevy Silverado EV, because for what it is, it's going to give you the things that you do expect out of a gas truck and the things that will make you happy about an EV. And it will do them very well and in a way that I'm very happy to say. And I think much more likely to be an EV convert in the long run, because you're going to get the benefits of an EV, but the familiarity, the legacy of a gas vehicle in a way that's good. That's what this should be. And I think GM and Chevy deserve a lot of credit for that. Now, what does this need to go up against next? Well, I do want to arrange a head-to-head of this against a Ford Lightning. It's going to take me a bit. And I don't yet have a third person to go film with me to go do a Rivian head-to-head with this and the Lightning. But I do think that this versus the Lightning, and if they ever release it, the Ramcharger, will be very interesting. Legacy automakers often do a terrible job at taking advantage of the opportunities that EVs give them in terms of platform design. But Chevy actually did a pretty good job here. Tons of rear legroom, lots of space in the interior, a fairly good-sized frunk, better suspension geometry. That's impressive and something that they deserve a lot of credit for. Ford did a great job with the Lightning, taking the existing platform and adapting it. But this did a great job of rethinking how a truck could operate and what it could do. We're going to see more of that happen in the future, and I'm really excited for that. This is a lesson that other major automakers really need to be taking. They need to be thinking hard about how they design and optimize and package the technology, how they develop their platforms. They need to throw out everything the driver cannot see or touch or experience in the car. That means completely redesigning packaging. That means completely rethinking how they route. That means completely rethinking the way that they design and optimize their suspension, their drivetrain, and the way that they think of the features and the packaging inside the vehicle. But at the same time, they should be remembering the legacy that you can touch, that you can experience, what you can feel. This Chevy actually gets it right, shockingly. This feels like an American truck. This feels like the Chevy and GMC trucks my family had when I was younger. I'm in a familiar place. That's exactly what this needs to be. Most other major automakers don't understand that, to their own peril. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and leave a comment too. I respond to everybody I can. I'll catch y'all soon. Cheers.